My name is Mariken Gaanderse. I'm a social entrepreneur and my company is called Fonkeling. It was already on the slide. And we're going to talk about, or I'm going to talk about chance today, sorry. But before we're going to do that, I want to do a little exercise with you. It's quite early in the morning and I see still some sleepy faces. So I'm going to help you to wake up a little bit. And I might need some help with the mic. Is that okay? Yeah? Can you hold it for a second? Okay, good. Because another reason why we're going to do this is that most probably by the end of the day you will have forgotten most of what I've said. And, but if you have experienced something, then the chances of you to recall it will be much larger. So I hope that you will take something out of this. Yeah? So, okay, we're going to start. Can you put your arms in front of you? Put your thumbs up. Yeah, active crowd, kind crowd, I'm happy. And now can you make a little pistol out of it? Yeah. Okay, and now you put your thumb inside, so you point only your index finger. Yeah, good on you. So now one hand is the pistol, and the other hand is the index finger. And now you swap. Okay. And you swap back. You can do it. Go a bit faster. Yeah. Good on you. Good on you. So, okay, tell me. How much time did it take you, or how many seconds even, did it take you before you had a judgment or an opinion about what you were doing? How many seconds, approximately? -1. -1. From the answer. Yeah, well, apparently people have done this exercise all over the world, and it depends a bit on where you come from your culture. So in Europe and in Northern America, in general, it takes people 0 to 7 seconds before they have a judgment. And in Asia, and particularly in Japan, it takes much longer, so sometimes up to 90 seconds before people have a judgment. Yeah, can you imagine? So obviously it is always very useful to have speedy judgment. It helps you in the safety on the street. But if you want to discover something new or learn something new, it helps to postpone your judgment. So you have your judgment or your opinion and then you mindfully let it go. So that's what I'm going to ask you to do today. So be open to me and postpone your judgment until the end, and then you can give me all kinds of advice. But I would like to ask you this from you. I have to see how the clicker works, if I do it the correct way. So chance. When I was thinking about the topic, I was thinking, so what does it mean for me? And for me, it means the likelihood of something to happen. So the likelihood of something to happen. And then I immediately had to think of a quote from Kevin Kelly. He's from the Wired magazine, and this is one of my favorite quotes actually. We have to get better in believing the impossible. So not only believe that something will happen, but something unimaginable will happen. And he was talking about the speed of change, especially particularly focused on web-based innovations. And because he said, well, it's going so fast you can't hardly believe it. And so, for example, Joost, you're sitting here in front and you're doing weird stuff with quantified self. And I mean, a couple of years ago, if you would have explained what you're doing now, people would have thought it was pure science fiction. I'm 100% sure of it. So it's going quite fast. And if you take, for example, what happens with maps, it's not that long ago that we were able to take a picture from the Earth from outer space. Do you know when it was, or when people were able to take these pictures from the first time? It's in 1972, it was Apollo 17. So it's not that long ago. And from these type of pictures, a whole new type of applications and tools emerged. So Google Maps, for example, is a famous example. And that emerged into the open source version, OpenStreetMap, and then people were able to access it much easier and apply it and use it and reuse it and mix it and add a meaning to it. So for example, this is a crisis map, or actually a crowd map, that is running on software from Ushahidi. Ushahidi is coming from Kenya. And this is a map where people can plot reports from women who have been sexually harassed, and it's plotted in real time on this map. And it's just a map, but it has quite significant consequences. I used to work, you as well, for Doctors Without Borders, Artsen Zonder Grenzen, for a couple of years, and actually it used to be quite a closed community, the humanitarian world. It's not easy, it's not a world where you can easily infiltrate. And with these type of maps, all of a sudden, new type of humanitarians popped up. People with their laptops, people from outside, not necessarily in the field, were coming in and helping out with all kinds of crisis maps. And this is changing the way they're working. So it's not only about experts and knowing the solution, but it's all of a sudden people who come in and work on maps real time, the wisdom of the crowds that all of a sudden is introduced, and also a mentality that is introduced. Often you go out or you publish whenever you think you have a solution, and now there's a whole stack of people who come up and present part of the solution, and not necessarily knowing yet what to do with it. So it's much more a hacker mentality that's all of a sudden introduced in a fairly traditional world. And a more recent example is this. It's a few days ago. This is an example from two people from the university in Madrid, and they had been analyzing all kinds of tweets that went across cities and counties, and they revealed a lot of information about unemployment rates. What they did is they linked the geolocated tweets to economical regions, and this is different than the administrative ones, because the administrative regions are linked to politics and history, and economic regions, they cross those boundaries. And apparently you can reveal a lot of, these tweets can reveal a lot of behavior features about unemployment rates coming from this digital exhaust of Twitter. And what I think is interesting of this is that this is a fairly easily accessible tool. It's cheaper, much cheaper than the traditional surveys that most people use, and it's real time. So I'm quite curious how much time it will take for policymakers in municipalities or in governments to start using these type of data and start reading it and applying it, because then they can measure whether their policies are actually working and if they have to tweak it, yes or no. And you see that it's demand a different kind, a different way of working. And that brought me to this quote from Marshall McLuhan: "We shape our tools and our tools shape us." This is a quote from 1964, and he was talking about television back then, but it still applies. I really like it, because what he said is that all these tools, they affect our societies and our cultures, because these new media, and he was talking or referring to television, they are creating new environments, so to say. And because of those environments, we relate in a different way to the world, and we behave differently, and we look differently at each other. So it's not necessarily only a new tool, but it changed the way we act and the way we behave. And that is what this social technology is doing. It's not only offering a new media or a new tool, but it's also changing the DNA of an organization. So if you look at communication departments, some people are working in communication here. Before, in many organizations, you had an entire sign-off procedure. So before a text or a press thingy could go out, it should pass by a different set of people, and they had to sign it off and say, okay, I agree, it can go out. But when Twitter arrived, you can't do it. So I know that in certain governments, and initially tweets were seen as incoming mail. So they were stashed like that, but I mean, obviously you can't do that. So it's changing, and it's changing the entire way of organizing. And I'm not naive about it. I mean, it's not that technology is the solution to everything. I'm not a believer in that. I mean, but it is there, and you have to deal with it, whether you like it or not. Because a lot of the discussions now are like, okay, technology will solve it all, but I believe also that the underlying questions they try to address are still social and also political, because in the end it's often about who's in charge, who decides, who has access, and those are more political questions. But technology is there and is there to stay, so we can better make use of it and not be naive about it. So another change is that people don't need organizations to organize themselves anymore. Before, organizations were sort of a gateway to politicians, to people in power, but now people can organize themselves much more flexible and much more agile. So you don't need it. But still, if you see the way most organizations are organized, it's in silos. And also, you have, in the city, you have the corporates that they have their own drinks and networks. You have the creatives that join in more informal hubs. And if you go to a city like The Hague, you have a whole international scene. And those scenes don't necessarily intermingle. And it's a little bit a pity, but okay, this is the way it is organized. And I used to work also for quite a number of non-profit organizations, and when the Arab Spring was happening, they were quite surprised by it. It was like, yeah, but how come we missed the revolution? And it's also related to the fact that a lot of those organizations are still working with logical frameworks, with clear business plans, so this is where we're heading. So people are so busy fulfilling their plans, their long-term plans, that they sometimes forget to look around and see what's happening in front of them. So, and it's also much more difficult to predict the future, because the future is changing this fast. So be open to whatever comes next. If you want to increase your chances, this is a very important feature. The other day I heard somebody say, so in what reorganization are you working? So, and still people sometimes feel that, well, we have a reorganization and after that everything will go back to normal. But if you look around, change is more and more the only constant. So you have to be prepared. And you also have, if you design a solution, you have to design with the unknown in mind. Because the world, in a way, is accelerating away from us. So, yeah, you have to have an open mindset if you want to stir up potential. And that also means that you have to take a chance at times. Before you had a brilliant idea or a bright concept, you would develop a business case around it, and then you would raise money, and then you would build it. And nowadays you have the tools to prototype it, test it, try it out, build it, and then raise money. And also technology has allowed us to try out different solutions simultaneously. And that means that you can nail it before you scale it. And so we became this connection economy, and connection creates value. And I think I see some people nodding here. It's a famous example, but I like it because it shows how important connections have become. It's the Toaster Project by Thomas Twaits. He bought a toaster for $3.99, and these are all the elements that were in the toaster. And he thought, okay, I'm going to try to make it myself. And it costed him 9 months, and this is what came out of it, and it worked like 2 seconds. So doing stuff on your own doesn't necessarily mean that that's the solution to stir potential, but yeah, it's a wonderful project, obviously. And if you have the opportunity to learn something new or to meet someone new, you should almost be running towards it, because this is where you have the opportunity for new solutions to emerge. And there is this saying that if you are protecting the status quo, instead of disrupting it, you put yourself at risk. Or for the Dutch people here, there are quite a few. Soms moet je veranderen om jezelf te blijven. And this is also that is related to that. So, in order to increase your own potential and to stir up that potential, or to create the chances, it's not only about luck, but in my experience it helps. It really helps if you create diverse networks and not only share knowledge but really combine knowledge and use the knowledge that's already there, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel and do it all by yourself, or think the wisdom of the crowd is always better. Sometimes you do have experts there, make use of them, And then as soon as you start crashing, combining, reframing that knowledge and those ideas and perspectives, new solutions and potential can emerge from that. And you can, you can really reframe what's out there by bringing those different worlds together. So an example, I mean, a famous example is always you can use your hackers to secure your cyber security, to improve your cyber security. And I'm currently working a lot in Utrecht with the circular economy. So, and there a clear reframe is that waste has become a new resource. Another one is the plastic bottles, as a famous one. There are a lot of plastic bottles that are now twisted. And they have a little twist in the bottle. And the reason for that is that they wanted to use less plastic, but the bottle needed to be strong anyway. And then they looked at nature. And then in nature, when a tree is twisted, it's much stronger. So now they twisted the bottles and they use less plastic, but it's still strong. So it's two worlds that look like they don't have anything in common, but if you combine the knowledge and combine the idea and use the diversity, new solutions emerge. And another more famous example is that the first aid unit from a hospital went to visit a pit stop at the Formula 1 races to see how they operate and how they work. So you can really use that. And if you do that in your work, that's what I try to do, bring people from different worlds together and get their ideas and get their perspectives. You see that it opens up people's eyes and it brings out other type of solutions. And this is all about innovation in general, but for me I was thinking, okay, I'm a social entrepreneur, when does it become more social innovation? Because that's what I'm all about, or that's what I think is important. So, and then I had to think about something that Christiana Wiley once said. And she said, so what is the first thing that people, when they don't know each other and when they are together, like you here in a room, what's one of the first things that people ask each other? You know?
What do you do?
What do you do? Yeah! What do you do? Indeed. And then often it's a little bit, the underlying question is, what do you do for a living? But then I would like to tweak it. And what I try to tweak it in this way is that, what do you do that matters? Because if you ask those questions, you immediately touch upon the questions that drives us. Yeah, you go a layer deeper. And what you see also is that companies that don't only work for economical gain, but focus on a deeper purpose and really try to address those complex and more wicked challenges coming from society, those companies are doing much better. I even have proof. There's this economic statistical booklet that recently came out, and it's full of saying that the companies that are focusing more on societal challenges, that they are doing much better than others. And you see that also in motivation of people. There's a lot of examples from Google, Atlassian is also one of them, that if people have the space and the time, literally the time, to work on projects that matter to them, their motivation increases enormously, and they're much more productive, they're much more innovative than otherwise. So I think we should work on that. And a nice example, I forgot to bring it, but it's Sugru. And most of you might know Sugru. Sugru is a self-setting rubber, and that people can use to adapt and repair and improve their products. You see here's a few examples. And I once met Jane, who invented Sugru, and she said that one of the key insights for her was, it actually came from her boyfriend, because she was playing with it and thinking like, how can I use this product in the best way? And shall I use it as a coffee mug, or should I put it on my camera, or what should I do with it? And then her boyfriend said, well, what if it's not you who has to be the creative, but what if you can let other people be creative and think of their solutions for themselves? So she really played with serendipity. And she created a community of serendipity, because then the chance of something to happen would increase. And she celebrated the diversity, and she let other people decide what they wanted to do with it. So there's a whole online community of people with pictures of what they thought of doing with the material that she invented. And it's a very fun product, and you should watch they have brilliant videos also with what they do with it. But it's not only about fun for her, because there's an underlying purpose, because she hates the fact that people throw away stuff that easily. So she also made a repair manifesto, and whenever you order Sugru, you get the repair manifesto as well. So again, there's this underlying purpose and this underlying drive that made her make this much success with Sugru. So, click. Oh, so, going back to the theme of today, chance, and the likelihood of something to happen, I was thinking I would like, whatever I do in my work, I always try to twist that a little bit. So not the likelihood of something to happen, but the likelihood of something meaningful to happen. So what can I do that I increase the chances that something meaningful will happen? So in the work that I do, and I work in a lot of different places, because I like to create these communities of serendipity and work preferably in a more anti-disciplinary way, so not necessarily working with a common knowledge in a particular area, but to combine it. Whatever I do, whether it's an event, or whether it's a program, or whether it's bringing together a group of people, I try to think of, okay, what are the ways to make something meaningful happen within this group? And yeah, because I do have a very, very firm belief that if we combine our bright minds, like we have here today in the room, if we combine our bright minds with our creative hands and with the purpose that comes from our heart, together we can create the conditions for magic to happen. And if that happens, chance can become a real driver for sustainable change. Thank you very much.